the budget work session for Tuesday, July 29th, 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Koulianis.
Here.
Vice Mayor Eisner.
Here.
Commissioner Kulyas.
Here.
Commissioner DiDonato.
Here.
Commissioner Banther.
Here.
Thank you. We have, tonight is a workshop. Again, there will be no public comments or any questions from the public. This is a work session, and we're going to start off with the agenda items. Our first one is the CIP, and or we're going to have, I guess we're going to do an overview first. We'll hand it over to our finance director, Ron Herring. Ron.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just thought I'd first go over the CIP projects that have already been discussing as part of the budget process. The first group here is public safety CIP over the next 5 years. And you can tell we've got 9.1 million of CIP, public police and fire related, between equipment, vehicles, police and fire vehicles, fire trucks, police vehicles, and then in blue is reserves, saving aside money for the fire trucks as they come due in future years. So that's the public safety, 9.1 million of public safety. Here's a stormwater project for the 5 years, 6.3 million. Like I said, the first 2026 to 2030, 2.4 million in 26, going out to 1.3 million in 2030, and like I say, 6.3 million of stormwater projects. Streets, brick and paved for the 5 years. We've got 3.8 million of the streets for brick and paving. I highlighted the brick ones over the 5 years, and like I say, that's 3.8 million of streets for brick and paved. Sidewalks, just have fiscal year 26, 400,000 of sidewalks for fiscal year 26. These are other major projects being budgeted for. The Craig Park Seawall construction phase 1, 3.6 million. Elfers Spur Trail, 1 million. Bayou dredging, 464,000, that's for design. Golf course clubhouse construction, 4.2 million. Beckett Bridge utilities, 4 million. Wastewater treatment plant electrical, 4.2 million. That is the 2026 portion. Meter replacement program, 2.4 million. That's the 2026 portion. And wells, new and rehabilitation, 1.5 million for an additional 21.4 million of capital projects. Other projects that have been mentioned on the horizon and design work being done on them is Sponge Dock Flood Abatement Program, the River Bayou Dredging construction, and Craig Park Seawall Phase 2 construction. Some of you have seen this graph before, because with all the capital projects, we've been talking about some financing, and we're trying to relate how the city of Tarpon Springs financing compares to other cities in the county. Currently, if you look at the blue line right here, the average of all the cities in the county is 4.63%. That what the average is the annual debt service divided by the revenues of those cities. The orange bars are the revenues going out 10 years, increasing them by 4 to 5%. So as you can see, with the financing we're talking about, we're at 4.1%. So we're still under the average of the 4.63. Currently, we're at 2.4% with the land financing we did. So as you can see, with the financing we're talking about, we're at 4.1, we're below the average, and as you can see, it gradually decreases during the years. I believe right here, one fire truck lease was paid off. Then in here, another fire truck lease is paid off. Right here, the 10-year land financing is paid off. And right here, if we did this 10-year financing, it would be paid off in 2036, and we're back to 0%. And that is CIP right here. I've got other slides going into really the enterprise funds, so I don't know if you just want me to stop here on the CIP. The other ones are really getting into the enterprise funds.
Okay, so let's go through questions from each of the commissioners. And again, this is a workshop, so let's air out whatever it is that is high priority for each of us. And
I just wanted to mention that we have maps in front of you. One is the streets, the 5-year streets project, and one is the 5 years of stormwater project. So you can see the locations across the city.
yeah, and I think all of us have had opportunities to work with staff and get information on all this and get informed on all this. But now is our opportunity to fine tune all this. So let me go to Commissioner Banther. Do you have any questions or concerns?
This is just questions for now, not our commentary?
It could be anything related to what he just covered.
Okay, thank you, Ron. And you might not know this, and I should have asked you before. It's not a gotcha question. For the 4.6, which is the average debt, a percentage of, I guess, operating budget that a city has in the winter area, what is the median number for that? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Are you talking about the average of all the cities?
Well, yeah, you have 4.63 as the average. Do you have the median number? Like, say, like a larger city blows that average up, you know what I'm saying?
Well, we've got some cities up at 14% and 12%. Dunedin, Newport Richey are some of the higher ones at the higher range. That 4.6, as you probably know, is the average of all of them.
Sure.
Their annual debt service divided into by their revenue.
Okay, and you show us within 10 years, if we do this debt service plan, that the debt will be paid off completely, and that's off expected revenues, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I very much appreciate how you've laid out the projects here in the CIP. I think we should be giving priority to public safety items, which I believe we are, and stormwater especially. I keep on saying that, and it's in my opinion that after the stormwaters events that we experienced back in the fall, that our residents are looking to us to help correct these problems. We can't stop storm surge, but many streets flooded because the stormwater system was just overwhelmed, and that's my street included. And I think people are looking to us to do what we can to correct this. And I think that this proposal you have in front of us is our best path forward to get this done. So I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Commissioner DiDonato?
First of all, I just want to thank you, Ron, and many of the other department heads that I've had the privilege of talking to the last couple, 2 or 3 weeks on this whole process. As stated the last time, one of the big things I wanted to see was what's been provided recently with exactly what projects and where. I don't know yet, unless it's maybe just new, but a projected date for the golf course. I was asked that this past weekend.
The projected date for the golf course?
For the
construction?
Clubhouse, yes.
From what I understand, they're talking next winter, February, March. They might be ready for construction. The design work is in the process right now.
That's what I understood. I passed that. I just want to make sure that was correct. I don't know, is this on the website, is going to be all laid out like some of these charts that we've got? I know you gave us new ones tonight, that we're going to keep that updated so the public knows and understands what we're doing with these dollars. Yes. Because that seems to be a big question. But I thank for your leadership, Charles and Ron, and the department heads to keep us informed on that. At this time, that's really all I have.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Thank you, Mayor. Ron, we have this legend where for the 5-year street resurfacing asphalt and then street resurfacing bricks. Roughly, what's the cost for those projects in those areas?
You mean the total is 3.8 million or?
Yeah, okay, so it's, well, like these right here, the asphalt and then like the resurfacing for some of the roads mentioned on here?
I'm not familiar with this.
Okay.
That's the same as that.
No, thank you. Are there any ones in particular you're talking about, or?
Well, I'm just trying to get to the cost of what, the resurfacing totals would be, and then the resurfacing by brick for those 8 streets that we got listed here.
Are you talking about the brick?
Yeah, if we could just focus on the brick, could you see that?
I think I do have isn't it right there?
Total of everything, asphalt and brick.
I could answer that. I've got, over the next 5 years, just under 3.2 million for those 5 years of Brick Street repairs only.
Okay, and okay, and now these stormwater projects, this might be some questions for Bob. These projects 111 and 108, what is the significance in that area for the drainage and stormwater? Because it's really the first time I've heard about it, and that's why I'm just curious, because if this is going to be in the plan for the budget, I just want to have a better idea of it.
Sure. Ron, can you flip back your slide to the stormwater CIP real quick, please? Thank you. Let's see, 108, is that the Lakeview?
Yes.
Okay. And then the 111 is Grandview? Or is that Roosevelt? I got those two mixed up in my head.
Grandview Drive, it's
Okay.
listed.
So those two have direct outfalls to Lake Tarpon, and we were able to get state funding for those, 100% funding. So we were able to move ahead with those. So we may as well prioritize for those for this year.
Yes, sir. Okay, and I see in like this stormwater thing, how we have
Yeah.
construction and with some of those same projects, we have design. Could it come back that the construction costs will be more after you finish the designs with them?
That's always a possibility, sure.
And I know some of us board members were on this board when we talked about the flood abatement program, or for those 3 intersections at the sponge docks. I don't see them on here. Do we have a plan to try to get those taken care of within these first 5 years? Because that was a big priority, being down at the sponge docks and stopping some of those king tides during the summer, and we saw those costs just balloon up to a lot of money at each intersection.
Yeah, so that part is done. We put the check valves in at the Hope Street and Ferris, I think it was, by the marina. So that part's done, but
Okay.
the upcoming, the vault pumping station, all that, we're still waiting on the okay from FEMA. We've made we're like a finalist on the funding for all of it. Like the next, was it, we put in for 4.2 million or something. So we'll have that for you at some point. We
Was
just don't
that
know when that's
going
gonna
to like our state and local representatives, or?
Yeah, that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also have that one intersection by Roosevelt and the Vicanis too, that has that flooding.
Yep.
How are we treating that intersection?
And that one is the third one that we got funding from the state for this year. So
Okay.
we're getting ready to kick off the design on that one.
Ron, these are 5-year plans, and I'm just curious because we're taking out a 10-year loan, and obviously this board knows how I feel about it, and, staff does too. What's our capital improvement plan for years, I guess, 5 through 10, and how are we gonna go about budgeting for that and paying for any capital improvement projects during that time?
Well, part of it is if we do the financing, it's going to relieve some money and have some money for those years through 6 through 10.
Okay, is that something you could easily produce for us, just for comfort, just to have an idea what it would look like?
We could put together some for the years 6 through 10 and the plans for those and how
Okay.
they're going to be paid for.
All right, just
You
so,
wanted did you still want the bricks, the total of the bricks?
I think he answered it along the lines of what, 3.8 with the asphalt and the brick resurfacing? It's just brick. Just brick? Okay. And so, I see these Bob, if you could just come up for one more second. I know, these are stormwater issues, but, we talk about stormwater, there's 2 different types I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of our everyday summer thunderstorms, you know, put down 6 inches of rain in 30 minutes, and, you know, that is our goal, to try to stop those type of floods from happening and flowing, right?
Well, we have a lot of missions, but that's one of them for sure.
Now, like with this, you know, as we talk about hurricanes, and, you know, if a 3-foot, 4-foot storm surge come and it's out in the middle of the roads no matter what, I mean,
Right.
will that really have an effect, no matter how much we do this stormwater in some of these places? Will it really make that much of a difference if the surges are up that high anyways? And can the water really retreat just as fast as the tide goes out, I guess? Or would it be even quicker with some of these projects being done?
A lot of those projects are designed to help that recover faster. That's probably the easiest way to put that.
The disaster,
Yeah.
hurricane-style flooding? Okay.
Whereas, also, for example, if we have a street that doesn't have stormwater infrastructure now, the road would be flooded. But if we put stormwater infrastructure in, pipelines, inlets and things, that water now has a place to go to get off the road. So that's what I say, when it'll help us recover quicker rather than holding the water in a road or in someone's property.
Okay.
That's the idea.
All right, I see some of the costs of those projects. I think there'll be a lot more if we put these bigger, you know, tubes and water to be able to flow more. So I'm interested to see what those prices will come for the designs. But as of right now, that's good, as long as I can see something between years 6 and 10 and how we can pay for them. And because we're moving some projects up, obviously. And so we should have a better understanding of what we're going to do between those years for the community, at least, and leave future boards an idea of what to move forward with. So thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. The 108 and 111, the street funding, that's all been granted? That's not coming out of us?
The construction is 100% funded. Yeah, we are paying the design part. So that is what we're offering and what we offered as our match.
So why is it, say, 477,000 on here?
That's the estimated construction price. Is that what it is? Yeah, for Grandview. Right, so that would be the grant amount that we got from the state for that project.
Right, but it's not ours. It's not something we're going to pay for, is?
Well, technically no, because we're going to pay for it and get reimbursed by the state. So Ron is showing you as a cost. I'm sure, Ron, you have a separate slide for revenue.
Have a separate revenue line item
It
for
shows
the
that as
grant.
revenue.
I just need to clarify, because it looks like we're paying for it, but you said that we have a grant for it. So we're only paying for it initially and getting reimbursed once we pay for it.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to. You also said something about check valves. Are these check valves that you have in, or are they duck bills?
They are, in effect, check valves. You're thinking of duct bills, which work the same way. They are inline check valves, but they work the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because we did put in duck bills originally and it didn't work.
We put in some that didn't work and we had to get them fixed, yes. They
Okay.
weren't duct bills, but you are correct on that part that we had to come back and fix them.
So we still have some that still need to be put in, correct?
All over the city. We got a lot of places that need them, but not at the sponge docks.
Okay, because I wanted to clarify for Commissioner Kulias, there's quite a few that still need to be done to stop that water from coming in on the high tides.
Yeah. Craig Park project, for example, is getting, I think, 6 of them on the outfalls.
Okay. The slide you had up there on Orange Street, or could we put that back up?
Is that for streets, or is that?
CIP Street.
was,
It's brick right there.
Yeah, that's it. So I think, where is it? You had 1.1 million. You see that on the right-hand side, third down?
Yes.
For which design is that?
Yeah, that one. We're going to need to update that.
We
one.
didn't,
Yeah.
that's still the previous design. We didn't update it to the one the board approved the other night.
Because that's 2.5 million.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure nobody made an error here. So we have a dredging estimate that is still being worked on. but we don't have a dredging actual work of how much it's going to be.
Not yet. I just got a message from the engineer today. They're making progress on those calculations, but they are extensive.
Is it much different than what originally was on the original?
I don't know yet. When we presented it, the board asked us to expand the scope of the work, so I don't really have a good idea yet for you on what those numbers are going to be. Just not ready for it.
Because I'm very interested where that money's coming from, since we didn't, we have never done that, and we're supposed to be, as the charter, being done every 3 years. So that's kind of important to get done.
You're talking to the bayou dredging?
Yes.
Well, with doing the financing, it is freeing up money to have, currently I have an estimate of 5 million in there for it.
Originally, what you were showing, I think the first thing was 6 million, then it was 2.8 million, then it was 1.5 million dollars. This is the 1.5. So, I mean,
Those stormwater?
yeah, yes, these are ticking away a lot of money. And if we're going to try to approve a 10-year loan, this is the question I asked a number of times. Where is that borrowed money going to be going to?
It's these lists, these maps, the roads, streets, stormwater, plus
Okay.
about 5 million.
Well, the stormwater portion is 3.5 million. It'll be financed out, the debt service will be paid from the stormwater fund.
So with doing all of this upfront and quickly, as we're trying to do, before the prices, let's say, with inflation go up, which is our whole idea,
Right.
this is where I'm going to have to ask you the question. How do you plan on managing all of those projects at the same time?
Well, I mean, the good news is a lot of them have to go to design, and we have a lot of engineering consultants that do the design work. So overseeing design work is pretty easy. It doesn't take too much time. It's this construction side that's going to be a challenge. And if I need it, we have resources that we can bring in, consultants to help us with the oversight and inspections. I think we can handle it.
I need a little more enthusiasm than that.
I think we can handle it.
Okay.
We can handle it. We can do it, Ron.
They scaled back what I sent them, saying, here's what we can manage over the next 5 years.
Well, I'm asking this because I hate to bring up bad subjects, but we did the Sea Breeze, it was a disaster. We did the Bay Shore, it was a disaster. And I could go on, pick something. The Gross, that was a 4.5 year disaster. So I'm looking at all of these projects, and we could borrow the money, and we could be in court on each one of these projects if we don't have somebody overseeing it. And having an outside engineer, which is what we had on the Sea Breeze project, I believe, correct? Didn't we have somebody outside there?
We have always had help on our projects, but not specifically assigned to that. We were overseeing that one.
Yeah, because that, I remember, that was a fiasco as well. So, I'm just, as much as I'd like to get all of these things done and be proactive and doing what the city wants to do, I'm also apprehensive to how many hats you want to wear. And so, it's not just spending the money, it's getting these things done correctly, so we're not doing it twice.
I would also add, Mike, if I could, Commissioner, I have my apologies for being informal. We are hiring a new Public Works Director who has a lot of experience with managing stormwater projects and running a stormwater program. I'm sure we could tap into that expertise to help us manage projects and help us oversee some of the stormwater projects, because as you know, they are in Public Works.
The only problem with that is they have to come in here with a learning curve.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not you. You know where the bodies are buried, they don't. And, so I understand that. I had a conversation, as the city manager knows, with the last Public Works person, and that was the question I asked. I asked how long it's going to take you for you to get up to speed. And, you know, it was a number of months. And I still think that person has to, you know, take a couple of months. Even if they're experienced, they don't know the town, they don't know the players. So, you know, it scares me when I see all of these items because, you know, this board signs off on that, and then we're also the ones that are responsible if it goes astray. You know, so there was also one more thing up there. There was the street project. Didn't we allot 300,000? We changed it from 100,000 to 300,000, and I saw it being
Sidewalks, you mean?
Sidewalks, yes,
Yeah, it's,
That would be the sidewalks?
yes. So how are we spending more than we're supposed to?
Well, when we do the sidewalks, we're supposed to allocate another 100,000 from the capital project fund for sidewalks, so it's a match.
So we're going to actually spend 400,000 is
Yes.
the? Okay. Yeah, because I didn't know how that figured up.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what else these are my thoughts, so, I'm scared to, or let me rephrase that, I'm apprehensive to take on so much. I'm okay borrowing the money and trying to get projects done, but it really has to be, you know, I know you'll be giving up one of your hats very shortly. So that's a good thing, but I'm sure in the onset, you're going to be having to feed that person the information of what's going on, so, okay. I have no further questions.
Thanks, Vice Mayor.
I didn't go, so I'm going to go now, and I know Commissioner Kulyas has some more comments or questions. Go back to, Ron, the proposed CIP budget. No, the 21 million. Okay, so let me, so I understand this financing component. Ron, when we borrow this money, right?
Correct.
Is it like in the form of a line of credit? Because a lot of some of these things are not going to get done in the fiscal year. For example, it's possible we don't have, because we have to get do we have the federal money for Craig Park already?
For phase one, yes.
We actually
We've got
have
the
the
$2 million
fund? We
grant.
have the funds?
Well,
Okay.
we don't have the full amount. We got 2 million for the grant, and then we still need the city money for 1.6 million.
Okay. And like you say, the clubhouse, it's possible that it may be this spring before we can even start construction, so that wouldn't be completed by the end of this fiscal year, it wouldn't be completed by September 30th of 26, most likely.
Correct. I think I've heard it could take a,
So how
it
does
could take a
the
year to
financing
build.
work? Do we get a line of credit and we just use it, or do we actually get the money and put it in a interest-bearing account?
No, with 10-year bank note, we get the money in advance, and then we draw, we have our expenses that go against. So we get the money when we do the loan.
And then we put it in some interest-bearing account.
Correct.
And then if the city manager and myself, we met with Congresswoman Luna yesterday, and we were going over some additional assistance we can get from the federal government. So she's going to help us, or try to help us with the dredging, more of the dredging money. She said she's going to look at possibly helping us with the Beckett Bridge utility money. So if we get some assistance from her and the government, what's the earliest we can pay down the debt if we end up having additional funds that we don't use?
I mean, like the prepayment on the.
Yeah, it's 18 months? Is that what it was?
Well, that's what it was for the land. When you go out to bid for the bank notes, the banks are going to bid on it, you're going to get interest rates, and you're going to get the prepayment dates. With the land, we took the earliest one, which happened, the interest rate was still one of the lower ones too. So with the land, it was 18 months. So in July of '26, we can pay off the land debt.
But we'll have those options, right?
Right.
Okay. And, you know, I have a close friend of mine that lives in a house right over the Beckett Bridge. And he has been, you know, because the county is going to take part of his property. So he's been in communication with them. And I don't know if, Bob, if you got that information, but he told me that that the county reached out to him and told him that it's being postponed again, and it's possibly going to be postponed another year. Are you aware of that?
I am. I did confirm with the county's project manager just today or yesterday that it looks like a 6-month postponement from where it was before. So
Okay.
probably not going to start construction until late 2026.
Late 2026. And what's the earliest that we have to do what we have to do? I mean, what's the
Well,
latest?
the
What's the
ans-
latest we have to do what we
The
have?
answer is it depends. It depends. And I say it that way because the county has included all of our work in their Bridge Investment Program, BIP grant application. It's a federal grant. If they get that, then we don't have to hurry up and do our work and get out of their way. If they don't get that, then we do need to get the pipes moved from under the bridge so that they can do the bridge construction work.
Okay, when will you have to, when do you, if it gets kicked 6 months, when do you think that date that we'd have to act and actually start spending money?
We should probably start next summer.
Next summer? Okay.
Yes.
But the way that thing's going is they keep kicking.
Right.
So hopefully we stay abreast of that, and that may be pushed into the September 30th, 2027 fiscal year. So and if you go back to your staggering on any of your items there, let's say whether it's the streets, the bricks, I mean, a lot of the money doesn't get spent, even though we're accounting for it now. And again, if we do the financing, we free up money that would have been spent on fire station and all the other things listed there to then be used on this, but we won't probably use, it's not possible that we can use it all, even by the end of this fiscal year, right? So it's actually going to stagger into future benefit, correct?
As far as the expenditure process on these projects?
Yeah. A lot of these expenditures are going to go into another fiscal year.
Correct, and when you do the financing, we have 18 months per the IRS to spend the money.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 3 years.
3 years, 36 months. Okay. All right. And one more thing, and then I'll go to you, Commissioner Kulyas. One of the questions that I asked the city manager when he gave me, his street map is, are we spreading the wealth? Are most of the communities getting something in the sense of sidewalks, roads? Is everybody getting a piece of this, progress?
I believe so. You can see the spread. You can see the spread. We don't have a sidewalk map here with us, but you can see where the streets, there are a lot of streets centered around the bayous, but there are several projects that are out on the peripheral. And then the same with the stormwater. There's a few that address Lake Tarpon, and the others are more in the center of the city.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, well, I mean, we saw the sidewalk program, and I'm going to question again. I see Seabreeze, we got, 80-something thousand on both sides of the street, and do they really need 2 sidewalks on that street? We can transfer 80-something thousand to some other smaller sidewalk projects. They'll still have a nice sidewalk on one side of the street. They got a nice road over there with sewer, and usually the only people on that road, like I said, are the ones living on it or just doing the Tarpon 500. So I'd like to see just one side or the other of that sea breeze. That way we can, it's a lot of different joints we can take care of. And Bob, all these projects, these brick surfacing, asphalt resurfacing, stormwater, what percentage would you say can we do in-house and not necessarily outsource labor-wise?
I'd say we probably can do some sidewalk work in-house, but brick and asphalt, I wouldn't do that in-house.
Okay, and even the stormwater projects as well?
We are not set
Okay.
up for large capital projects. We're more of an operations and maintenance stormwater team.
Okay.
We don't have a construction arm.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go on to the second agenda item, the enterprise funds.
I've just got some brief slides on the enterprise funds. One starting with the water and sewer fund, comparing the 2025 budget to 2026, the change and the percentage change. As you can see highlighted there, the biggest change is going from 7 million of capital outlay to a little over 17 million of capital outlay for Beckett Bridge, the electrical project, meter project. And those same projects are mentioned down below, the Beckett Bridge, the electrical, the meter replacement program, and wells, new and rehabilitation. And for the revenues for this, we just say, no, we are currently looking at a revenue rate study. The current rates that are already approved are 2.75%. But currently the study, is currently a rate increase of between 7.75% and 8%. Going to the sanitation fund is mostly all the contractor expense. Highlighted there, the 7 million. Largely, is for waste management, and there's a little bit more for the debris or the yard waste hauler. The increase, the maximum is 3% per the contract for the waste management, for the garbage hauling. Stormwater, again, the biggest expense is the 2.5 million for the capital outlay. I've got the capital outlay detailed on the next slide, but it's a lot of the same projects we already saw. And a revenue sufficiency study is also in the works for stormwater. Currently, they're looking at a rate increase of from 10.65 to 13.15. This is per month. And again, these are the same stormwater projects you saw before, but the only addition is the ones that are highlighted as some of the equipment that they're looking for in the stormwater fund. Then we go to the golf course fund. Of course, the biggest expense is the 4.2 million for the new clubhouse. Other increases for operations was grounds maintenance contracts and the goods for resale. Then the marina, a very small fund, only a budget of 148,000, but the biggest expense is 82,000 for personnel services. Well, this is CRA's another item, so I can hold off on that if you just want to focus on the enterprise funds for right now.
Yeah, let's stay with the enterprise funds. Commissioner Banther, do you have any questions or comments regarding the enterprise fund?
Oh, yes, Ron, could you go through with me real quick again, the rate increases on the water and sewer? Kind of, do you have what average per dollar amount?
Yeah, it's about $7.41 a month per homeowner.
And that's the increase all the way, does that codify the increase all the way up to 8%, or is that just the initial increase?
That was the increase at the 8%.
8%. So right now we are at 2.75%, correct?
That is currently approved in the ordinances.
And then what's the initial rate increase to? Is it, you said it's between 7.75 and 8%?
$7.21 at the 7.75%.
And that's going to be crucial in help funding these projects, correct?
Correct. That's all in the rate model with these projects capital projects that we have in there.
So about $7 a month a household, right?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner DiDonato?
Yes, right. Could you give us some kind of idea as to the health of these funds compared to 5, 10, 15 years ago? I mean, I don't know if you have that, but I mean, are we on course pretty much is what I'm asking?
Well, with the water and sewer fund, we did have, where the revenue reserves were increasing, that's all we had. Well, they did I don't want to get into, the 2.2% reduction in the rates a couple years ago, and we had an increase in the capital at the same time. You had inflation, so we saw our reserves start to decrease after we did that rate reduction. Everything sort of hit at that time after we did that rate study. You know, if we would have known that the CPI was going to start going up to 9.1%, I don't believe we would have done that 2.2, well, we wouldn't have, that 2.2% reduction. At least I wouldn't have been for it. But yeah, we saw the reserves that went up to 12 million before that decrease was done. And then after that, the reserves started to go down. We stabilized it by the board approved a 9.9% increase just that started was effective December 1st of 2023, which helped stabilize the fund balance. So it's not at the same level it was, a couple of years prior for the water and sewer fund.
So everything other than that then is pretty much on course with the other funds?
The sanitation fund is keeping right about the minimum. We've had yard waste, the cost of our yard waste pickup has increased. So we're right at the minimum fund balance in the sanitation fund. Stormwater fund, we're positive that we're above the fund balance on that. Marina, for the first time, we're above the fund balance. We used to be in a negative fund balance until a couple years ago. Marina's a small fund. A golf course fund, that one's done great guns the last few years, and
just for a point of explanation, so that we all grasp the same thing. The enterprise funds are basically come from all the user fees, and how much is the impact funds?
What you want?
The impact funds go towards the enterprise funds?
Well, the impact, well, it depends on the impact fund. If it's a water impact fund, new capital growth for water impacts has to go for new capital growth for water.
I know it goes to where it's supposed to go, but I mean, those are the two major sources of the enterprise funds?
Correct. As far as water and sewer projects, the water and sewer impact fees can be used in conjunction for water and sewer projects.
And the impact funds would probably be considerably less percentage-wise than user fees?
Yes. I mean, if you use more, are you talking about if you use more of the impact funds, you might be able to reduce the user fees, or?
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes, just Ron, as we stated before, that fiscal 2026 proposed budget for the stormwater as it goes out to 2030, if we could just work with Bob and a couple others just to give us idea of what 2031 through 36 could look like with this current project overlay. That way we would have an idea for stormwater and other streets and sidewalks. The water sewer rate, I guess we'll talk about it here. Again, I guess is Mr. Kiger going to come up and speak and do a presentation afterwards, or? Okay, and so I'll hold off some questions for him.
Just to make sure, did you say you said from 2031, 36, did you want sidewalk also, or just stormwater?
Stormwater, asphalt, and brick.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Kiger is going to come up and do the next set of slides, the water sewer draft rate scenarios. Is that correct, Ron? The
Yes.
next set of
He didn't hear you. He doesn't hear you.
attachments. The next set of attachments for the water rate sewer, that's what Commissioner Kulyas was talking about. So are you ready for him to come up and do his?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you got some more questions for me, but.
I don't have any more.
Yeah, but I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I pass? I missed. Okay, I'm sorry.
I feel like an orphan child.
Don't. Forgive me. Forgive me, Mike.
Not a problem. So, one of the things that I was listening to, and you had a very professional way to word it, So I don't want the professional way to word it. I want the unprofessional way to word it. So there was some irresponsibility in prior boards to lower the water rate with our rates going up and them lowering it to the public, correct?
Well, at that time, I guess I'd hate to get into that, what the boards were talking about then, but,
I don't
their
know what
decision-
board, I
Not
just
your
know.
job, it's not your job to excuse boards, so just answer your question.
My question is, that should not have been lowered.
I learned from that, I never go with a rate decrease. I learned the hard way sometimes. If something ever comes up again, I'd probably say no rate decrease, because you never knew that CPI was all of a sudden going to go for 1%, all of a sudden 9.1% a year later.
So could that be the reason why we're having to do a rate increase now?
Well, it could be part of it, I did one graph going up to this showing that when the reserves were going up to 11, 12 million, they were only doing 3 and 4 million of capital expenses. Now the need for more capital expenses came up after the rate reduction went down. So you had the rate reduction go down 2.2%. You saw capital increase, the demands for capital. You also saw the inflation increase. So it's sort of a double whammy there.
Like I said, you did the professional way, I will do it the unprofessional way. It was a calculated error. But anyway.
I like your way better.
Yeah, so do I.
I'll try better.
One other question, and, as we're discussing, we're asking all these questions about what we're doing with the funding for the 10-year borrowing. And a lot of the items are, like the Beckett Bridge is being pushed out, and there's other things being pushed out. So why would we need to borrow the entire amount and then not utilize, as the mayor said, we would be taking the balance and putting it into a fund to get interest, but the interest we'd be getting is less than what we'd be paying, correct, to borrow it?
Well, right now,
In other words, I don't want to be borrowing money and losing money on the borrowed money. We could also split this up into 2 separate borrowings, correct?
yes.
Thank
You mean
you.
as far as separating out water and sewer and the other ones?
I wasn't even getting that intricate. I was going to separate it by, if we need to borrow $20 million, we borrow 10, and when we need the next 10, we borrow 10.
Correct, especially if you're saying that maybe we don't know what's going on with Beckett Bridge. I would hate to get the money and, okay, it's still dragging on, and we don't know when.
I like how you think. So even though that's the route I would like to go, I don't want to borrow all of it and then put it back in, okay? Pretty much that's all I had for you right now. Again, I would like to, see what is viable and what is not, and just work on the items that are feasible to be done. And then we can set up how much we should be borrowing to pay down what we need to pay down. I don't want to be the bank's bank. That's all.
Mr. Kiger?
Thank you, Thomas Kiger, Public Services Director. We got a quick presentation on our water sewer rate study scenarios. We've been working over the last number of months on updating our 10-year capital improvements program for the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, as well as developing rate models to assess the long-term financial viability of the enterprise funds and our ability to, continue to support our capital programs and utility operations. And so this is a quick intro into what we've been working on. This is a little bit of history. We've touched on this briefly of the water rates. You can see historically we had two different rate increases that we had been adopting for water and sewer. The water was a little bit higher, rate increases around 10%. That was during the build up to creating the revenue stream to support the RO plant project. And then we get to 2018 and we unified the two rate increases to 6.75%. And there was a desire on the behalf of the board to reduce the rate of increase for the water and sewer rates. And so the staff came back with an option for 5% reduction as in the first year, which would have been 2019, and then 2.9% increases moving forward. And that was adopted as and then the board asked for a reduction from that. So that went down to 4%. And then there was a 10-year basically stream of 2.75% annual rate increases, which were adopted in an ordinance. Some of those are still on the books, including in 26, 27, and 28. We had another rate reduction at board request in 2021, right before inflation really started to gear up post-COVID. Turned out to be a little bit untimely. And then we had a 2-year rate freeze in place after that. And unfortunately, that became not viable financially. We were showing some really negative financial forecasts, like negative fund balances in 24 and 25. And so that required some sort of shock therapy, essentially, to the water rates to get them back in line during all of the inflationary environment we were experiencing at the time. And the good news is we have stabilized the water sewer fund. We were projecting the last 2 years under the previous rate model to miss our fund balance target, potentially have negative fund balances by now or next year, and that has not happened. We have hit our fund balance target the last 2 years as a result of board action on the rates, and which is very good, helps support our bond rating. So that's going forward. We've still got those 2.75%, which are kind of legacy from back in 2020 on the books for 26, 27, 28, 29. And also last year, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago, we did have to make some really tough choices. We were slashing CIP, pushing projects out. Those projects unfortunately don't go away. If you need to replace a pump station, it still needs to be replaced in 2 years, whether you do it in 2023 or not. And we also had to make some tough choices. So we pushed out all of the major water main improvement projects out to 2028. We delayed pretty big rehab project for the electrical systems at the wastewater plant, canceled the future septic sewer projects because the premise was if we're struggling to afford our existing assets, we shouldn't be adding new assets until we can get our existing house in order. And we also started looking at options for the well field build out. So this is the first scenario from the rate model that we started with in our rate study, which is the existing 2.75% annual rate increases. And it's infeasible. You can see we would be projected to be near zero or significantly miss the fund balance target next year under this rate model, and pretty significant negative fund balances, not missing the target, but negative, like below zero, for, expanding out into the 2030s, by 2030, you're projected over $20 million in the hole. That would materialize. We would have to make some additional really tough choices about canceling projects that have already been deferred and things like that. But it's essentially not a financially feasible option to take no action. This is a quick overview of that scenario. You can see, there's some additional details and charts. But essentially where we're at is we've got very little buffer left in the water sewer enterprise funds. We've already spent down most of our unencumbered reserves. And we've also been spending down our impact fees over the last few years to try and keep the capital programs going anywhere we can use those impact fees. So we also have very little fund balance left in the impact fees in water and sewer to help kind of keep projects online over the next few years without additional action. So we also did look at a scenario for no debt. There was a desire to look at the implications of debt versus no debt in the rate study. The ultimate goal here is that if you look at, we do have a table that we provided to y'all, or I'm sorry, to the members of the board, that's our 10-year capital improvement program. We've updated that, and we've also gone through and re-estimated all those costs. It's a best practice to re-estimate your costs when you're doing rate setting, so that we're not dealing with 2020 or 2021 construction costs. And to support the needs we have as a utility over the next 10 years, we're gonna need about $110, $111 million, at planning level estimates. And to do that without debt, we would have to increase rates in 2026 by 23% and 20% additionally in 2027. This would additionally cause us, without any debt, to miss our fund balance target in next fiscal year by about $3.5 million, and we'd be very, very close to, staying in the positive fund balance overall. But essentially, this is a non-feasible option. It would be too much rate shock, and you're still missing the fund balance target. It's not the best way to finance our capital needs. Speaking about those capital needs, so we've got a few areas that are becoming very pressing, and we've had to make some tough choices on prioritization. So one thing is that we're struggling with and that we're working towards is the well field for the RO plant is at capacity. The plant was originally designed for 22 wells. We've only ever built out. We had 19 at one point. We're down to 17 now. And over the next 9 years, if we want to continue to stay as an independent water supplier, we would need to invest about $22 million in additional well field development. Similarly, we've had to push out a lot of the water main projects, and we do have some samples of water main over here, if anyone's interested. So long and short of it is we have about 50 to 60 miles of older galvanized and metallic water mains that need to be replaced. So this is currently programmed, and this is the same as it is in the last rate study from 2 years ago, as a 30-year replacement program from 2028 to 2056. And that's going to be a generational commitment. That's going to be $70 to $90 million over the next 30 years. At the end of the day, it'll probably be a little bit more as you start to get out into the future. And we also have an aging wastewater plant. That's a big driver for us right now. It was built in 1985. A lot of that stuff the components are getting to end of life, and they need to be rehabbed if we want to take this asset and turn it from a 50-year asset into a 75-year or an 80-year asset. And so we're looking at, in the late 2020s, early 2030s, probably $25 to $30 million investment into a life cycle rehab for the wastewater plant. We've also one thing we have been working towards in our CIP planning is goal-based CIP planning, is what are our needs, how do we get there, and programming in a level of funding that achieves those outcomes. And so the sewer system is actually one area where we're actually relatively on target. We're doing pretty well. This is from 2 years ago. We've increased the budget there to target 70% lining of all of our clay sewers over the next 20 years. And so that's continued to be in place, and we've been continuing to make progress against that. But the long and short of it is we need to be able to support $8 to $10+ million in capital in any given year over the next 10 years. Just to give you an idea of what we've been kind of working against, this is the non-residential construction producer price index from the Federal Reserve. You can see that gray bar is the recession that occurred during COVID when the economy shut down, and we've experienced tremendous construction cost inflation over the last several years, and that's what's caused us to have to catch up and re-estimate the CIP program to support new construction costs. They have tended to stabilize situationally, but it's still a little bit of an adventure in the construction economy right now. This is a snapshot of our water distribution infrastructure. Again, we've got 181 miles of water distribution main that provides water to our customers throughout the city. And about 50+ miles of this is sort of the older problematic pipe that needs to be replaced. Some of the newer cast iron stuff is still in pretty good condition, but we need to start a program so that when it gets to be a little bit aged in 20, 30 years, that it's going to be scheduled for replacement and have the financial support to replace those pipes. Similarly with the Galvy, that's a little bit more pressing. Galvanized pipe tends to age very rapidly. It's got a 50-year service life, and when it gets to 50 years, all the galvanization is gone. It starts to degrade uniformly across the pipe, and you have lots of leaks and problems. So what is included in the CIP plan? We are trying to avoid rate shock in the near-term years as much as we can, replacing all the older metallic water main over the next 30 years, making smart investments. This was a running theme through capital development, are there projects that we can push to the front of the line that will either recover revenue that we're otherwise losing or find ways to reduce operational costs? And those were considered the best investments in the priorities. So again, we're fully funding that rehab for the wastewater plant. And we did have to make some tough choices here, so we're projecting to try and reduce the capital costs associated with wellfield development for the RO plant to provide if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority, we have to pick and choose our priorities in order to fund them. And that was one area where we had to make some tough choices that we might be having to reprioritize some other capital programs. So with all that in mind, we come to our first feasible rate model option, and this is 8% annual increases over the next 4 years. And this includes $8 million in borrowing in fiscal year 26, focused heavily on Beckett Bridge, the water main replacement the water meter replacement project, because it's revenue generating and would self-fund under that debt scenario, and the electrical resiliency project for the wastewater plant. We'll talk a little bit about that one later. And this additionally includes $4 million in borrowing in 2027. And one other strategy that we've kind of coalesced around, working with the financial planners from Stantec that help us with our rate setting, is to bundle up all of those life cycle costs for the wastewater plant into one larger phased project or program in the late 20s, early 2030s, and bundle that up into one large debt issue over 30 years. That would obviously have to be voter approved in the future, according to charter, and then spread those costs out over the lifetime of the remaining lifetime of the wastewater plant. That's a best practice, really good option to, if you're going to do a life cycle extension, spread those costs out over the life of that project, and it provides generational equity. That way, the folks who live here over the next 5-10 years aren't having to foot the bill for the entire next 30 years of the wastewater facility. We did look at quite a number of options to try and keep rates down. One thing that we talked about earlier it's not on here was updating our wholesale rates for Duke Energy. That's included in all of these scenarios, and that helped keep us down probably another 0.25% or so over the next few years. And impact fees is another thing that we've been looking at over the last year. The last time we updated our impact fees was 2019. Impact fees are tied to construction costs, and we all know that construction costs are not the same in 2025 as they are in 2019. So it's also considered best practice that anytime you do a new CIP, that you should re-examine your impact fees because you have updated construction costs and capital needs. So we've completed the impact fee study with Florida Rural Water. They were our consultant on this, and they provided the service for us through their professional engineering services group. They specialize in working with small and rural utilities, so we value their expertise here. Some of the interesting results is even after you take away all the things that don't get included in impact fee study, things that are grant funded and debt funded, which is essentially the whole water plant and about half of the reclaim system, we have about $400 million in replacement value of assets in our utilities. The other key finding was that the current impact fees don't fully cover the cost of new capacity for new connections or new customers. And the Florida Rural Water Association recommended updating these impact fees to account for to ensure that the costs for growth are not borne by existing ratepayers. We have an option here. The remaining useful life option is recommended. That's our historic practice. There's two ways to set impact fees. One is remaining useful life, and one is full replacement value. If you imagine a water tower, if it's 30 years old, it's fully depreciated. The customers are still using it, but in the impact fee study, if you do a remaining useful life, the value of that asset is zero. But we all know that if you have a water tower and you keep connecting people, eventually you need to build a new water tower. And so the other option to look at that is replacement value, which is the total cost of a new water tower. So our historic practice has been to set impact fees at the remaining useful life option. So we've highlighted that for consideration. And that scenario would generate about $250,000 in additional revenue to support the CIP over the next, each year over the next 10 years that would not be borne by existing ratepayers and residents. So each of these scenarios, we had to include how we were going to handle the impact fees. The first scenario you saw, the 8%, assumed a 25% phase-in to option A from the impact fees. Option B that we've got here is the remaining useful life option, the highlighted green option from the last slide, but adopted immediately. And we have the ability to do that for water and sewer impact fees. And that would generate a revenue stream that will allow us to reduce the rate of increase from 8% annually to 7.75% annually, shifting a little bit of that cost for new growth onto development as opposed to onto existing ratepayers. This scenario includes the exact same $8 million in borrowing in '26 and $4 million in '24, and $4 million in '27, and the same sort of bond scenario for the major wastewater projects in the future. And we did have one other option that we wanted to show, which was trying to accelerate some of the neighborhood scale water main work. This is the exact same as what we just showed you a moment ago, option B, but it adds $1.2 million in debt in year 1 and year 2 to try and accelerate water main replacement at the neighborhood level. We think that this would get us about 1.5 to 2 miles of priority water main in the first couple of years, and to accelerate those neighborhood projects instead of kind of waiting for the major funds for water main to hit in 2028. So that would bring us to, again, one thing that's really interesting is this scenario sort of shows the power of debt to spread costs out over time and reduce rate shock. So this lets us get $4.2 million in projects done over the next couple of years with no change from the previous rate scenario. We're still at those 7.75% annual rate increases, but just with a little bit more borrowing, and it wouldn't affect our financial health down the road, according to the rate model. So that's that scenario. And this also assumes full impact fee implementation in fiscal year 26. So going back and looking at, there was a desire by some of the board members to talk about what are we getting and how do we get here. One thing that we wanted to highlight was the past rate models were really only funding about 70% of our capital program, and they also called for a kind of aspirational $500,000 a year in grants, which would be $5 million over 10 years. And we wanted to highlight that we've achieved that goal in the first, say, 18 to 24 months of the last rate model. So we've been awarded $6.8 million in grant funding, and additionally the PFAS money over the last 24 months, which exceeds our $5 million 10-year target. So that's been very successful. This program does include some major adjustments as to how we're looking at well field development long term. We'll get into that in just a minute, but it does basically cut a lot of the future well field development and try and shift that to other priorities. We talked about the meter replacement. We're about 17 years into a 10-year meter replacement program, and we've still got about 4,000 meters in the ground that are analog and need to come out. So this would surge some funds into the meter replacement program. This would be a third-party contractor, similar to what Pinellas County is planning for the next couple of years. And that would allow us to start recovering revenue immediately, and that we've built that in the rate model as an additional 2% revenue increase over the next 2 years, which allows us to reduce the level of rate increases that would otherwise be required. And then we talked about water mains, we talked about the wastewater plant. One other interesting thing about projecting for a future 30-year bond for the wastewater plant is that would open up some new financing options that we've not really exercised as a city in the past, including the use of the state revolving fund. The recurring theme that we get from the board is, let's go get the federal dollars. Right now, for a city our size, all the federal dollars are going through the state revolving fund. And with our population and our demographics, we would potentially be eligible for 20% principal forgiveness, but it does take a little bit of time. You have to get your projects on the priority list for state revolving fund, and that would be something we would start working towards over the next few years. So what is the cost of delay? This is a little case study in the cost of deferring capital projects. So this is a really important project for us. It's the largest project by dollars that we've got funded next year. This is to replace and elevate all the critical electrical systems at the wastewater plant. So right now, the electrical systems at the wastewater plant are 40 years old. They date back to 1985. They are below the 100-year flood elevation, which is interesting. They're very vulnerable to storm surge. And when we've done the vulnerability assessment through the sustainability program, we find that we're in sort of the unappetizing scenario that you could potentially have a storm surge that might only inundate maybe a third of the city, but it could knock out wastewater service to 100% of the city. So that's obviously not ideal. And that would take a long time to bounce back from. These parts are no longer manufactured. So we've occasionally had to go out and buy critical spares on eBay. Because they're no longer manufacturer supported. And additionally, the system is at 120% of capacity. So in electrical world, that's not good. So we first started identifying this as far back as 2008. This was a project that needed to happen. They said, you've got 5 to 10 years to go on this electrical system, and you need to start planning for replacement. It got budgeted in 2018 for fiscal year 27 at $1.6 million. We started looking into this a little bit in 2020. By 2022, we had an itemized master plan, and the cost estimate by 2022 was $2.8 million, and we scheduled it for 24. When we get to the rate study in 2023, we had to push that out to 2026, so we deferred the project. At that time, it was up to $3.2 million. We applied for a grant last year. Last year's cost estimate was $4.4 million. We applied for 50%, and we were awarded 50%. In the meantime, we experienced a generator failure, which led to a sanitary sewer overflow during Debbie, and that was an element that was forecast would have been scheduled to have been replaced in 2024 otherwise. And so here we are in 2025. We've got our $2.2 million preliminary award from the Resilient Florida program, but we've completed the design, and now the cost estimate's up to 5.7. So it really shows that, you know, pushing projects out into the future can have some interesting compounding effects that dramatically increase the cost of a project over time, and it makes it very difficult to fund these projects on a pay-as-you-go basis. Using debt to do these life cycle rehab projects can help you lock those costs down earlier on and spread those costs out over time. Going back a little bit to talk about water. This is a slide that's actually from 2010. This was our projected water supply mix from before we built the RO plant. The light gray, or the light blue box was the water that we were projecting to have from our freshwater wells. We were thinking we were gonna get about 300 million gallons a year from our freshwater wells, and freshwater is cheap. The balance at the time was we were getting the rest of our water from Pinellas County through their wholesale rates. And the goal was to shift all the wholesale water onto the RO plant as it came online and do about 300 million in freshwater, which was cheaper, and then use the RO plant, which is a little bit more expensive, to treat salty water to make up the balance of about 700 million gallons a year. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. So over time, some wells were taken offline on the freshwater side during the 2010s. The RO plant came on just a little bit later, but still pretty good for project delivery. But we've continued to lose ground on the freshwater well field, and that's led to the RO plant producing much more water than it was originally designed to. So in numbers, our original water supply mix, we were supposed to have 7 cheap freshwater wells, 22 wells for the RO plant, and we had 5 of those freshwater wells were taken offline in the 2010s. The last 2, we did have to take those offline proactively in 2023 due to emerging regulations related to PFAS, and we're working very hard to get those back online. That's in the CIP for the next 2 years, to get that cheap water back online as soon as we can with proper treatment. And we only ever built out 19 of those brackish water wells for the RO plant. And then unfortunately, we had to abandon 2 of them to a DOT project. When DOT tells you to move your wells, you have to. And of those 17 wells that we have, they aren't quite as productive as originally planned. It's hard to know what happens with geology. So the outcome is that we've been pumping the brackish water well field much beyond what it was originally designed to handle. And that's caused some significant increasing salinity trends, and salinity is directly tied to operational costs in an RO facility. So that's caused our operational costs to increase much faster than anticipated. So what are our goals for this scenario, right? We're trying to handle this, and we're trying to stop the bleeding on the salinity, and also to try and create a manageable capital program to support our water supply long term. So our initial goals are to get our 2 freshwater wells back online with PFAS treatment as soon as possible to reduce production costs, and add 1 additional brackish well for emergencies. This is an important operational thing for the water plant, and then we might need, and the current plan is trying to defer additional well field development so that we could deal with other pressing needs in the capital project program. That lets us get that $22 million for well field development that we talked about earlier down to about 6. But that's a choice, and we'll have to look at using potentially some water from the county, maybe $300,000 to $400,000 a year annually, to defer $1 million and $1.5 million wells over the next few years to buy us some time. The last thing we wanted to touch on was our level of CIP funding for this utility. So what we did here was we did some research. We pulled everyone else, nearby cities and utilities level of CIP investment that's planned for either this year or next year, whatever was most readily available online in their budget documents. And we pulled the population data from the Water Management District for the number of people that all these utilities serve. And we did a comparison, capital dollars planned for next year per capita, per person. And you can see here from 2025, for next year, we had originally from the old rate model forecast $7.3 million in funding, which came to about $250 per person in Tarpon Springs, just for water and sewer. And then, but unfortunately, the rate model only had revenues in place to support $150 per person of that capital plan. You can see here Dunedin is at about $2.70 per person. $270 per person for their capital program for water and sewer only. Interesting to note, they have different challenges than we do because they've already completed their water main replacement program, so they're not dealing with this sort of stuff anymore, at least not on a programmatic basis. Clearwater is funding about $900 per person. They must be going through some, I didn't look at the details, but they're probably going through some sort of major plant rehab or something like that, probably using debt. Oldsmar, a little bit different. They're a very small utility, might not be 100% comparable, but still funded at a higher level than our financial rates would support. Largo is also interesting, $340 per person. They're a wastewater only utility, so they get their water from the county. So basically shown here, we really need to focus on identifying funding sources and creating a funding mechanism that allows us to support our capital program at a rate that meets all of our needs as a unique utility. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, let me start off. So I think it looks like the theme of this is that we've kind of kicked the can for quite a while on commitment to the water, supplying water to our residents. Like you say, we plan to spend $250 per capita, and we only funded half of that, or close to half of that. Let's go back to the rate. Go all the way back to the first slide after your cover slide. Right there. Okay. So again, we were supposed to go 2.75 increase, right? That's what was committed by a prior board. I think Commissioner Banther was probably on that board at that time. He wasn't on the board when, and none of us were on the board when they decided to cut. And I'm not going to impugn whatever political motives were involved, but humor me with this for a second. Let's play some math. Okay, if you have $100 and you go down 50%, listen to me, okay, over here. And you go down 50%, what do you have?
$50.
$50. If you go up 50%, what do you got?
$75.
Right, because it's 50% of now what you have, which is $50, right? So to get back to ground, right, what would you have to go up? If you go down to $50, if you knock it down by 50%, go down to $50, and now you have to go back up to 100, what do you got to, what percent?
Oh, boy.
It's 100%.
Yeah, it is 100%.
Okay, it's
yeah.
100%. So it's double the percent that it dropped, right? Okay, so when you drop rates, for whatever the reasons, I'm not going to get into what Mr. Herring, he was trying to give me soft. I don't want to be soft. Okay. So when you go down, in this case, 5% is what they did, right? So if after that you get back on the 2.75, you're not even, you haven't even gone above, you haven't even, it's going to take double that and double that to even get back on the trajectory that we were supposed to be on all along, right?
Yeah, it's very
Yes or no?
difficult.
Yeah,
You're missing
just-
out on the compounding interest.
Right. So the point is that was not just a 5% drop, it was a large multiple of 5%, because it would have taken 10% just to get back to level, and you were supposed to be going up 2.75%. So to get back, you would have to double that as well. So we are paying a price for a board that made a decision, for whatever the reasons were, to not follow the normal course. And this board had to pick up that burden last year, and is now having to pick up that burden to tell the residents that they have to have this big increase. That's the destructive nature of what they did. I'm not sure they understood it. I don't know if they understood it or didn't care, but it was destructive. Because would we be in this position right now if we had stayed on that course?
We would not be in this position. I will say, going back to early 2020s, we would likely be looking at some sort of rate increases. I mean, the level of construction costs and the
Right,
the
but
deferred
the
needs would
level
still
of increase
necessitate
you'd be
that.
asking us for right now would be minimal compared to what you're asking for now.
It would certainly be less.
Much, much less. Much less. It would be. So, okay, so my biggest concern, and we all had this meeting, so I wasn't trying to rush you, but all of us you've given us all these slides before and you went over them. So I appreciate it. I mean, the public can watch and that would be helpful, but we all went through them. What really floored me was the visual things you brought, the show and tell. So give me the middle one. Give me the middle one. So under this scenario, when do we start fixing these pipes, replacing these pipes?
2028?
Yeah, go back there, yeah, and talk on the microphone. When do we start fixing these pipes?
I'm sorry,
When do we start replacing these galvanized pipes?
the current rate plan and the options A and B call for accelerating replacement of the metallic water mains in 2028. And option C, or option 2B, we're calling it, puts about 1.5 to 2 miles of water main into the first 2 years, so next year and the following year, to try and accelerate it via debt.
And that's where I'm going to be leaning towards. Well, not leaning towards, that's where I want to go. I had my office at the corner of Orange and Ring, and our toilets overflowed at least once a week. And I didn't use the water to make coffee. The truth. Where's the camera? Okay, take a look. This was taken from where?
That one's from a project that we did 2 years ago on MLK. So that was about,
Okay, so in the general downtown area where aged pipes, right?
we tend to have, it's interesting, we do tend to have them kind of scattered in different parts of the city. The older cast iron pipes tend to be clustered in the historic parts of town. And, but the galvanized pipe, that tends to come from like the post-war era, but it's only lasts about 50 years.
Anybody can see
so
my
that's kind of
eye
all over
here.
the place.
Can you see, anybody see Mr. Racy's? So here you go, look at this.
We have a bigger
So
one.
if this was your arteries, you'd be like one Philly steak sandwich away from a coronary, right? Okay, so, we cannot keep kicking the can. This is going to be the grown-up board that addresses issues, okay? And they played games with the rates, we pay in the price. They've ignored this stuff for years and years and years, okay? And we cannot know this and ignore it. When you showed me this, it confirmed the issues I had when I was down at my office. We can't ignore this. So when we do road repairs, So wherever we're doing the road repairs, we're going to be fixing these things as well, right, as part of the road repair work? When we tear the roads up, are we going to not?
Yes, we're coordinating the two
Okay.
capital projects.
So when we do Orange Street and we're going to be taking care of some of these issues, right?
You'll be able to make coffee again.
Yes. Yeah, we're coordinating, so we don't have to dig up a newly paved street, as an example. We want to make sure we coordinate the projects that they interlace.
So we'll be addressing that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what are the options of using Tampa Bay Water for some of our water to reduce some of our demands on our infrastructure?
Well, we don't currently have a connection to Tampa Bay Water, nor are we a member government, so that would be something we would really have to explore. Would be a very dramatic change in policy, and I don't know that Tampa Bay Water is looking for new member government, so we would have to explore that. That would probably take a little while to look into.
But does Tampa Bay Water?
Pinellas County, Mayor.
What's that?
Is it county water or Tampa Bay water?
No, it's called Tampa Bay Water. I mean, when we met with Dave Edgars and we met with Brian Scott, they mentioned joining Tampa Bay Water. But I don't know, again, we were just, it was over coffee, so I don't know can you look into some of that? And what the cost is of joining Tampa Bay Water, and maybe even joining it for just like partial use, like to help us defray, some of the demand on our RO plant.
We can have some conversations to explore that concept.
Okay.
Would that be as opposed to buying more water from Pinellas County? Is that what you're
Well,
referring to?
I don't know, when they were talking about Tampa Bay, I don't know if that's what they call it, the Pinellas County.
I believe that's the county water, I do.
Yeah,
I'm not certain,
I think
but
they call it Tampa
believe.
Bay Water. I think that's
Okay.
part of what they call it, so.
If I may, if we were to take water from Pinellas County, which is our historic wholesale provider, we would be paying their wholesale water rates, but they are supplied by Tampa Bay Water. A connection to Tampa Bay Water directly would be a different scenario. They have different wholesale rates for their member governments, but we are not a member government, so.
No, it's 3 cities and 3 counties in Tampa Bay Water.
Whether we would
never
cut,
be able to
whether
get
we
to
would
that.
cut the middleman out we'd cut out Pinellas County and not have to pay whatever they're up.
Yeah, I believe that would be really new territory. The original 6 member governments of Tampa Bay Water were put together because they effectively surrendered their well fields at the time. This was back in the water wars era.
I was just
it's not really-
curious.
not
I'm
really
just curious.
feasible.
If it's a non-issue, then, then it's a non-issue, but
Not an issue.
it's probably not something.
No, we would have
Okay.
to
It's
purchase
just
wholesale. That would be our only option.
something to think about. Okay, I get it. Commissioner Banther?
Yes, thank you. I agree with everything that the mayor just said. And Mr. Geiger, I appreciate you meeting with me yesterday and obviously my colleagues as well. It's very informative and you learn this stuff in pieces, but when it's sat in front of you, it can be eye-opening. Obviously, as the mayor said, we have a lot of deferred maintenance in our city. We're the oldest city in Pinellas County. We actually predate the county itself. And, I'm a big, pay now type of guy as opposed to pay later. So I support what you have proposed for us. And I believe it's crucial for us in maintaining to be a full-service city to the extent that we can. Especially what's eye-opening was the wastewater treatment plant you discussed and the aging infrastructure there and its vulnerability to storm surge. And, we could have had a few more feet and been in a much different situation. And I can almost be certain that if residents can't flush their toilets beyond 24 hours, they're not going to care about anything we're talking, about here tonight. You gave several different options, one with an accelerated impact fee, et cetera. Is there an option that you like the best out of all that, or are you pretty neutral?
I think our preferred option is definitely, we definitely want to, there's 2 decision points here, right? One is full impact fee adoption in year 1. The other is debt, is additional debt for water mains. We 100% think that the best option is full impact fee adoption because it reduces the cost to ratepayers to the maximum degree possible. And we've kind of left it to the board's deference as to their level of debt that they're comfortable with. We'd be comfortable with option B or option B2 with the additional debt for the water mains.
What's option A again? Scroll back so I can see that, please.
Option A is phasing in the impact fees 25% at a time, but that would bring you to 8% annual rate increases over 4 years instead of 7.75s.
And option B is?
7.75s increases over the next 4 years each year, and full impact fee adoption
Is
in
the borrowing
26.
the same in both A and B, or is it different? Sorry, I don't have.
Borrowing's the same.
glasses yet. It's the same, okay. All right, thank you very much.
Commissioner DiDonato?
I think it's been expressed pretty well so far. Of the recent meetings that I've had with staff, this was probably got my attention more than any of the others, and along with what the mayor said. We need to correct it, and we need to correct it as soon as we can. And as soon as we can, according to what we're getting in backup says 30 to 50 years. That's what we're looking at. So it's got to be planned, and then it's got to be carried out. It can't, the feel-good thing about reducing rates, I think we've learned our lesson on that. As I talked to you, Mr. Kiger, during our meeting, I would also hope that we're going to look at not just development of well fields, but either other ways to help our water and the wastewater treatment plant as well. I think we have to get somewhat visionary, and thinking I talked to you about the Gulf, and I won't go through all that, but we're pretty close to taking salt water now. We're using brackish water out of our wells. Long-term, there may be a possibility of something like that. And we talk about grant funding as much as we can. And to me, if we don't have an adequate water supply, this city, needless to say, will be in trouble. I don't want anybody to panic out there. We're going to be okay at this point, but it's time to take action.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Kiger, the water distribution infrastructure where it shows the pipe material, miles of pipe, out of all these, what is it, the cast iron and the galvanized pipe are the ones that have to be replaced, right?
The galvanized is the highest priority, and the cast iron would probably be the next highest priority, depending on, individual conditions on individual streets.
It's a good point. This ductile iron pipe and HDPE and AC pipe, those are what, somewhat new or just?
Ductile iron's really good. We only have a little bit of that. That's sort of like the main backbone of our water mains. And that's 75 to 100-year pipe, and it really didn't come out until the 1950s. So we're not so concerned about that at all right now. HDPE is plastic. That's relatively modern. PVC is modern, so we're less worried about that right now. AC pipe is an old cementitious pipe, and that would be on the list for replacement as well.
Okay, and as we talk about the importance of the electrical at the wastewater treatment plant being raised up, how much important is it for all those different lift stations in town as well to have their electrical boxes and stuff lifted up far enough so those don't get damaged during some type of surge?
That's very important, and we did include increased levels of funding for annual maintenance for those in-house type of projects to try and get those lift stations more resilient.
So those are some type of projects we can do in-house comfortably, you think?
Yeah, the panel elevation, that's something we have been doing a lot of in-house, especially as we've had to go through and replace electrical panels that went underwater during the storm surge from last year. So a lot of those have been elevated in-house. The one thing we were kind of finding was from the last rate model, we had kind of whacked back the annual repair and maintenance funds for the lift station guys, and they were sort of running out of money for materials and electrical components early in the year, or not totally at the end of the year. So we want to make sure they've got enough funding in there for materials to do these in-house projects, and that's reflected in the proposed rates.
Okay, so with these options, we'll be able to get the extra funding to help lift some of these stations. Is there, I think that's just as important, if not more, than some of these stormwater road projects, because, electric goes out over there, the sewer stuff as well too. So if there's been a planned or at least a history of some that have been fixed, if you could share that with us, that would be great. I think it all ties together with the natural disasters. Sir, you talk about I've had a difference of opinion between this rate reduction that happened in 2022. There was definitely the political climate was different, but as we've seen, it's been years before in which they reduced it strictly right after the construction of that of that plant. So I know we're here to play catch up, but I think it's something we can do. We see this magic line here at 4.3%, and right now we're gonna try to make a 9.9% increase, or we're going after option B or B2?
Yeah, so I did forget to touch on the magic line. The magic line, every time we do a rate model, they look at all the bundle of things that we purchase for operations, like insurance and electricity and chlorine for the water plant, and they bundle all that up and they look at historic rates of inflation for those commodities and the bin of commodities that we buy as a utility. And they say, all right, what's your projected operational cost inflation over time? And so the bundle of stuff that we buy is, we would be projected to, for that to increase, our operational costs would be projected to increase 4.3% a year. So if we set any rates that have been set below that or that would be set below that, you continue to have your revenues reduce relative to your operational costs. And any rates you set above that, you start gaining back ground and funding your capital program. And if you set rates where you're taking in less money over time and operational costs increase, the outcome is you have less money to spend on capital projects, which is what we've experienced.
Okay, and we talked about some of the impact fees where I believe it should cost more for development to come into town as opposed to the residents taking on the burden of some of those impact fees and accruing them. That's part of the program in what, option B or 2B?
In B and 2B, we have full impact fee adoption in 2026. So we would put that in.
Developer
they're both
will pay
the same.
more.
Yeah, and A is the one where we would phase in the impact fee increases at like 25% over the next 4 years.
Okay, so we're looking at about, no matter what, every household over the next 4 years to get about a $28 increase in their water bill, about $7 each year leading up for the next 4 years.
Let me take a look. Apologize.
Yeah, he's correct.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, it would be about $7 next year, a little less than a little bit more than $7 in 2027, and then $8 in 2028. So yeah, roughly that, yeah.
All right, how certain are you that you won't have to come back to us in a year or two and say the rates got to go up even more?
We talked quite a bit about this, and that's why we're kind of only proposing, or we're going to be recommending a 4-year rate adoption. There is a lot of uncertainty in the construction market in particular. You know, if anyone can give you a firm commitment that like, hey, you know, there's not going to be any new COVID and there's not going to be any new inflation over the next 4 years in the construction market, you know, they're probably doing something a little bit higher earning than running a utility. But we think that we're comfortable with this. We think it's protective of the financial health of the utility, and we think it gives us room that if we do have some tough choices to make, that we could make those tough choices without impacting the financial health of the utility.
All right, and I know we're looking at this 9.9 for the this year coming up.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 9.9 is in the past.
Okay, 2025, so we're sitting at 3.8, thank you.
3.8 was what was implemented this last fiscal year.
Is there a number between that
current fiscal year.
is there a number between that 4.3 and that 9.9 that you think can give us some extra projects without adding too much of a percentage each year?
Well, the 9.9, like I said, that's already been adopted. That was in the past. That's already
Okay.
been implemented.
So what are we going to do now? We're proposing what, a 3.8% increase?
The 3.8% increase was adopted on October 1 this last fiscal year. And
Okay.
so what we're looking for now is for fiscal year 26, fiscal year 27, fiscal year 28, fiscal year 29, 7.75% rate increases.
About a 5% difference in what's being, okay. All right, I have no questions for now. I'm just hoping it doesn't come back more in a year or two with even higher rates. So, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Could we, when you give us these, could you make it so I could read them? These need to come on 11 by 17, and I'm not interested in a 2-inch margin. I mean, I can only read the top layer of it, and my glasses are fairly new, so. What is the difference to the resident in the 775 versus the 8?
So for next year, it would, the 7.75% would be $7.21. The 8% would be $7.41 per month for the average resident.
So no matter which one we choose, it's negligible?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't need to read that. The wastewater plant, you're talking about raising it. Did you consider building a water-resistant wall around it?
The option that we came to was the most economical because all the electrical components have to be replaced anyway. So it was either replace in kind and try and harden the building. We did look at an option like that. What the lowest cost alternative when we did an alternatives analysis was we're repurposing the old chlorine building. We used to use chlorine gas. We decommissioned that a few years ago. And so we've got an elevated building that's existing that we can cheaply retrofit and relocate the electrical components into to elevate them and make it more resilient.
So you're saying it's cheaper to do new than to protect what we have?
It would obviously, it's not a feasible alternative to keep what we have because it's at end of life and it's at 120% of capacity. So it has to be replaced anyway. So we're going to elevate it while we replace it.
I understand it's an end of life, but it's also people's pockets. So I'm just looking to save if it's cost efficient, to do it, yes. But if we could save and push it off a little bit, I would prefer to do that. Duke Energy, I know we spoke about this and they gave us some things to make things cheaper for us, and that's why we gave them the water at cost. But they're not giving us anything anymore. So when does that end? When do we start charging them they are our largest user of water, largest consumer. When do we start charging them more money? Is that a contract that we need to approve? How does that work?
What we've got on the books right now is we have a contract with them that they pay the fully loaded cost for water, including the associated capital to generate that water. So if we wanted to change that, we would need to try and renegotiate a new contract with Duke Energy. That would take a little bit.
How long is that contract, and what is a fully, I forgot the second word you used. You used a fully what?
Fully loaded cost. So that's not just what it costs us for electrical and chemical. That includes the cost for in a few years when we have to replace the membranes at the water plant. Like it's the fully loaded, it's the cost per 1,000 gallons, including all the O&M and the capital.
Are they getting the same increase we are?
Yes. Actually, when we adopt
I need to see an enthusiastic yes.
I'd have to go back and look, but actually, when we're going to adopt a special rate just for them for the wholesale rates, which we talked about back in March, they'll be getting a larger increase than the residents.
Well, and I bring this up because, I'm listening to all the questions and all, we don't have enough wells. The wells have sort of run dry. We're trying to make fresh water out of more brackish and salt water. All these costs are going up. And I needed it to go up for them as well. So, bottom line, I'm listening to that we don't have enough water without spending a great deal of money to produce the water we need. Yet we just recently approved and I'll bring up the elephant in the room, the Morgan Group on the other side, and they're going to consume a great deal of water. How did that go down?
I will say, yeah, that was before my tenure as director, so I will say, at the time, I'd have to go back and look at like when we had the well field, to abandon those 2 wells, and also, there's also the hope that wells stabilize over time. One thing that I would point out too is that that's a case where we did have impact fees come in as a result of that, and those impact fees are the total sum of the impact fees that we've got for the water impact fees fund are projected to be used for well field development. So we are taking the money that was projected to be handling the capacity needs for that plant, plan development, and applying it to well field development to meet those needs.
Well, I do remember one of the emails that there was a subsidized impact, that they didn't have to pay impact if they gave us a piece of land. Did that happen?
I would have to go back and look at that.
Because I can't speak for the board, but personally, I don't want the piece of land. I would prefer the impact fee. Oh, I didn't know if you were done. I'm sorry. Is there any way to put a filter system or something on the cast or on the galvanized? Is there a partition where we can filter the water prematurely before it hits the residents? Because everybody up here gets the rusty water, brown water complaint. And since we have 43 feet of 43 miles, sorry. If we had 43 feet, we'd be, and we have 14.7 miles of galvanized. Now, I have double filters on my house, and I get crystal clear water into my house. So is there anything that we could do, since it's not feasible to change all this out, and it's a multi-year project? Would we be able to put some huge filter system somewhere between the furthest distance and where we start replacing? I think you know where I'm going with this, but.
The problem is that the galvanized is scattered throughout the city.
I know that.
There's not one solution to that. If folks have local water quality issues, the best practice would be to install like a whole home water filter in your garage. It's not uncommon. Some folks also like their water a little bit softer. So that would be one option, but ultimately the way we try and manage it is we do try and manage this operationally. So most of the time when we get the rusty water calls, and we get them here too at City Hall, this is something that we experience here as a workplace, is when there's like hydrant flushing or different like shocks to the system, contractor break, something like that, when you have sudden changes of water direction. And the practice is we try and get a distribution crew out there as soon as we can, usually within an hour or so, and flush the lines and stabilize the water and get all that rusty water out of there. But on a day-to-day basis, it's been manageable, but there are definitely impacts to residents. That's the truth.
So then my next question would be, do they make, and I know the answer, so I'm asking you the question to agree with me, do they make large filtration systems that would be cheaper to do right now on a temporary basis than it is to replace all these pipes, and we could do our own jogging of the pipes to make that pipe clear quicker? Did you follow me on that, or you wanted it in plain English?
I think perhaps you'd like to tell me the answer?
Well, I mean, like the mayor said earlier about arteries, they have, things that can go in and open up that galvanized and make the you know, the loose arteries, the loose stuff go through. I mean, you would have to shut it down for a little bit, but if we had a filtration system on it, it would catch that before it hits the houses. Could you possibly look into how much it is to put, not a whole house filter, but a commercially huge filter, like something that would really, not an RO plant filter, but something that would filter the water? Because I don't know how many years it's going to take for these 60 miles of pipe for you to replace. Some of it's under brick, which we need to deal with. I know you can't get all of it, but you do know where it is. So if to put a filter somewhere at the end use, or even, you know, would take out a lot of the debris that's in there.
We can look into what our options are for managing water quality, for sure.
I'm just giving you another option then to replace all these pipes, which I know we have to do, which we can't afford to do, and it's huge to do. That's all. I know that you didn't count on losing, you know, all of these wells. Are we in the process of redoing wells, or what are we doing with the wells?
Currently, we are in the, this is one area where we're still kind of addressing like an emerging regulatory environment. So we have Tetra Tech working on a long-term water supply plan for us, and we're looking at the different capital costs for all the different options that are on the table. The initial findings seem to be that the most effective way to get cheap water back online fast is to do on-site treatment for our two legacy freshwater wells at Tarpon Avenue and Gross Avenue. That would give us the highest yield for the amount, you know, for the capital dollar invested. And it's a common strategy that's being employed by other utilities that are dealing with emerging regulations from PFAS.
The only other question I have is, you know, is there any like known clear water areas that we know of that we haven't gone into yet? You know, where we have fresh water coming up, you know, like what's in Crystal River, something like that, where it's a fresh water, you know, constantly coming up from the bottom.
So I'll give two answers here. So for my time when I was in the
I only
water,
want the right answer.
Oh.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. So the general answer is, when I was at the Water Management District, one of the recurring themes was that we are limited on fresh water capacity in the northern Tampa Bay region, and that because of the impacts to lakes drying up and things like that back in the early 2000s, everyone's had to shift onto like a little bit more expensive water supplies that don't stress the aquifer as much. So the short answer is that regionally, the era of cheap groundwater is largely over. We have looked locally, and we've just completed some modeling results, working with our hydrogeologist, and we're finding that there's not a lot of options from a regulatory perspective for cheap development of new freshwater wells. But we do have some wells that are still in place. We're seeing what the costs might be to get those back online long term, with the overall goal of trying to reduce operational costs.
My main question was, where do you know where there would be an aquifer to tap into? Or is it just everywhere?
Yeah, the aquifer sort of relatively similar, like across the whole span of the city. Most of the water in this region comes from the upper Florida aquifer, and in some areas of the city it's fresh, in some areas of the city it's very saline. The areas where we get the water from a regulatory perspective tend to be saltier. There's a little bit of options for bringing some of those freshwater wells back online that we're exploring.
Now, we stopped taking some of the water from, I think it was from Pinellas County, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that cheaper than us producing our own?
Unfortunately, the answer is no. So we're in this sort of situation where we're producing a lot of water, we're trying our best to stay independent, but it's degrading the well field over time. And in order to stay independent, we would have to spend lots of money in the near term to develop the capacity that we need to protect the well field. Otherwise, we're going to continue to, essentially the water plant is producing about 50% more water than it was designed to, with about 70% of the well field capacity, which it's kind of like running your car at the red line all the time. It's not good, and eventually you start having like pretty significant issues. So what the option for trying to use basically the county option would give us a little bit of water that we could help to try and manage our water supply, do well field management, and buy us time. Because right now, if we try and stay independent, we're very much in a crunch where we need to start developing wells quickly, and that piles more capital into the near term, which would increase rates. So in the near term, it's more economical from a rates perspective to push that capital out into the future, but it does cost a little bit more operationally. So we're having to spend a little bit of money to buy ourselves some time.
But if you buy the water from an outside source, it takes some of the heat off of the wells that we have, and possibly it could be recouped.
Exactly. Long term, that would
Long term, I understand it's not a week or a month or a year, but is that something, is it comparable buying it from Pinellas County? That's my question.
Currently, our total water production costs are a little north of $5 per 1,000 gallons, and that includes like the debt service for the RO plant and a lot of fixed costs. We can make the next 1,000 gallons, like with just chemical and electrical costs, if we need to make another 1,000 gallons of water at the RO plant, that's about $1.50 to $1.60. The county, there's a cost associated with that. Their wholesale rates are currently $4.75 or $4.74 per 1,000. So it does cost us a little bit more per 1,000 to buy water from the county, but it defers the need for additional near-term capital investment.
And it gives our wells a chance to take a breath.
That's the strategy we're trying to employ, yes.
Okay. Do we have to run the Pinellas County water through our RO plant?
No, sir.
Sorry?
No.
No. So, but then we would not be getting RO water?
No, so we would get a.
Yes, is the answer.
Yes, and that actually is the case currently. We do have some sort of boundary issues, where there's certain parts of our service area that they do already get county water because it's usually like on the perimeter of our service area, and they happen to have the closest pipe. So there are already a handful of residents that are getting water from the county, and I think it's vice versa as well. We serve a handful of the county's customers too.
Do they pay a different price than the RO plant?
Everyone pays the same. If you're in our service area, you pay the same rates.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, let's go on to item number 3, the CRA. Thank you, Mr. Kiger.
Yeah, thank you.
You did a great job. Thank you.
Yes, we just had the one slide on the CRA showing the 2025 budget, 2026, and again, the biggest increase of 2.9 million highlighted there is for CRA capital projects. Listed below, we have Orange Street construction and then the CRA master plan projects, and obviously the 990,000 is an old number. We're up to about 2.5 million. The taxable value increase was 2.82% for the CRA. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioner Banther, do you have any questions?
No, just I continually think that I think that the decision that we made last meeting that Commissioner Kulyas proposed about Orange Street was a great idea. I think it's a good use of the funds. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner DiDonato?
I would agree with what was just said. I think that's a good plan, and it's relatively, compared to the others, a smaller fund, and it changes every year as well because it's based off taxes. So straightforward to me. Thank you.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes, it was just a main artery to the downtown, and so I just thought it was important that we try to look out for and actually get it done nice and wide for the community. As far as, and this isn't just a question for Ron. Can we, as soon as possible, have a Forbes property update with the CRA and see what the bids were? I'm hearing a few different things, and I just wanted to come out and have a presentation for us here as soon as possible. Also, whatever our goals are for this Latour parking / garage, or just knocking the building down just to create more parking space, with this new approach that we're looking at, I just think we just need to look at, or maybe communicate with Mr. Latour and see what his feelings are in the future. And no, thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ron and staff, for the CRA. Appreciate it.
Vice Mayor?
No, I pretty much every question's been asked here, so I really have nothing more to add to this.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to get Commissioner Banther to smile that I didn't ask a question.
Issue being next to me, Mike, it's, not like old times.
Don't worry, there's always next year.
Hey, I'll be right here.
Okay, so do you have anything on the miscellaneous column, number 4?
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay, if there's not any other comments you have, Commissioner
I
Kulyas?
just want to make, and it's just, we need to get the light poles at the Bayou back up so we can have our beautiful Golden Cross during the holiday season. I know it's been some time. We asked for it, but it's just, we had so much going on. If we can just somehow get that looked into. And Cicadia Cemetery, the cemetery layout, its design, all that. I don't know what phase, what portion we're into it, but I'd really be interested in looking at what the new cemetery is, its layout, and
I think someone's coming down the aisle to answer your question. You coming down and answer that question?
You can answer that, yeah.
Okay.
ideally trying to maximize its potential on that property. Tell us, sir.
You'd like to know the plan for the cemetery?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we've been working on updated policies and procedures for the cemetery. We've got a policy document, so that we're also working on a business plan for it. One of the kind of interesting goals that we think the board might find interesting is we do have a perpetual care fund, and so we're looking at setting rates for future cemetery purchases that would historically, that perpetual care fund has been used as effectively as a sinking fund for capital improvements, and we're thinking it might be interesting to try and create a financial situation where we put money in the perpetual care fund and it goes to defer some of these long-term operational and maintenance costs, which might shift the burden of the operation and maintenance a little bit off of the general fund and free up some general fund money. So that's what we're working on there right now, hoping to get it open next fiscal year, and we'll be coming back to the board once we have that sort of fully baked.
Can I ask you the amount of lawn plots and then lawn crypts, has that been fully decided? Is that still worked on? Because I'm just trying to find a way where we can maximize all those spaces and preferably, you know, have our lawn plots, but still maximize as many lawn crypts as possible in that area too.
It's already platted. We already have the pin set and stuff like that, and there was a desire to get it laid out tight and maximize the capacity. So,
Okay.
And we can do a follow-up if you'd like.
All right, thank you. And then that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions of staff, meeting adjourned, 8:31.
It was right on the money. I said 2 hours. It was right on the money.